start from the right side of it. You know, the NGO Bureau was rationalized back to internal affairs. So now you have NGOs, police, prisons. so in one of our engagements, somebody commented that now the suspect has been properly positioned. So when you have such a structure, for us as a sector, if I may speak specifically about the NGO Bureau Rationalization, we wrote 2 components of the Bureau that were useful in our shrinking context: the NGO Board and the Adjudication Committee. These were mechanisms of redress. Now the only mechanism of redress we are remaining with is court. CCG versus Attorney General. You are not even positioning the real people that have violated the NGOs. So we have lost that mechanism that was helping in the regulation of the NGO sector. When you look at our, part of the coffee debate is, the balance of trade payments. NGOs contribute to remittances and the forex inflow in this country. During COVID, it's the only time government admitted that inflows to NGOs had helped stabilize the currency, because it was part of the main forex inflows that the country remained with. So now if you line up our foreign exchange earnings as a country, gold comes in number 1, which we don't process as a country. And I don't know whether it's properly certified or where it comes from and who is bringing it. Then you have coffee. But not far from these 2 giants, you will have remittances of our citizens working abroad. So when you tamper with coffee, because gold, we are not sure whether it can continue to flow when it is not ours. When you tamper with coffee, you find a country that is likely to bank its foreign exchange earnings on exporting human beings as a country. When you look at families dependent on coffee, you look at household incomes, there is always a talk of, inclusion in the economy. The 38% Ugandans that are out of the economy.
Of the money economy.
Yes, you look at families dependent on coffee. I know that 70% of Ugandans depend on agriculture and they bring in 20 to 25% of GDP. Even that should be a headache for our political leadership to say, how can majority Ugandans contribute minimum GDP? Because now 70% contributes 20 to 25. That should be the headache of the leadership. Not struggling to even take away that 20 to 25. So we shall find ourselves in the near future, if this trend is not stopped, that 70% of Ugandans maybe contribute 10%. And then you have the human beings that we are exporting, Kadamas and others, being the major source of foreign exchange earnings. Is this a country you want to live in? Why don't we make sure that every citizen adds value and their income is captured as part of GDP? This 70% suffocating under 20% GDP. Why don't we liberate them under economic, sustainable growth and inclusion? If that was the debate, citizens would feel represented by the political leadership. But instead we are debating uncoordinated things. And even when we ask Parliament passed a law on fuel monopoly, I don't know whether we could even go beyond the first cargo, where we smuggled the cargo and Mombasa held the goods. That is the level of incompetence of the executive. And before we knew it, the ministry wrote letters now to other petroleum companies, please bring fuel to shield the corruption and stop the fuel shortage that would affect the economy. But also our prices keep going up. So can the executive tell us, what have we benefited from that fuel monopoly? And have we recovered that cargo that was held in Mombasa? So if you have this level of incompetence, why don't you leave the fewer agencies that are adding value to this country and serving Ugandans? Why are you tampering with them? Yet you know the challenges you have of incompetence and bad governance.
Okay. Let me read some feedback so that I give you parting shots there. Let me start with this one here. Thank you, Timothy, for the show. Dr. Mhumza is one of the best economists, but carrying out research, he has failed to know that UCDA's merging is targeting a few people. Special thanks to Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. This is George from Bugwere. Okay. Good evening, the viewers and Timothy. My issue is nothing but can this country be transformed before our country goes to the dogs, especially the value system of money. How can one graduate from the university after finishing lack a job? He or she spends millions doing schooling, does tuition paying, gets knowledge, and then pays for ignorance. I think we should have a welfare state. The remaining things are just a gamble. This is Caleb from Kanungu. Okay. Last two. This is someone, Henry from Kabanyoro. Thank you for the presentation. To achieve rationalization, let government invest in the actual shareable quality data, which all agencies must use to direct any decision. The country is investing in things that do not help growth of the country, the mindset of the people, and key positions, enriching just a few people and families there. Finally, thank you, Timothy, for the show. The current government is frustrated with Ugandans by targeting to destroy cooperatives. While in the Bush War, when they came to power, the coffee export trade revenue is owned by just a few people, linked to the top leaders and the value chain. Reduce corruption at Parliament. The Minister of Finance should stop signing loans which are made redundant. I am Charles, a teacher who teaches under the Ministry of Education, but education quality is under Directorate for Education Standards, and the judge of our education is UNEB. Very lengthy there. A lot of messages coming through. We appreciate all of them that have come through. But let me give the panel here parting shots, a minute each. I'll start with Dr. Honorable Chivumbi, Dr. Susan, Dr. Fred Muhumza, and finally Honorable Katesh. Over to you, Doctor.
I think it's important to make the economy work for Ugandans. Our income inequalities, our income inequality is increasing. We are now at 0.48 coefficient, where you have now that disparity. And it is not likely to be reversed with this kind of thinking. Like some authors said, you cannot, try to solve a problem with the same intention that created it. So we need to overhaul the economy and create mechanisms that would serve to uplift citizens out of poverty, create sustainable growth, but also reduce income inequality in this country. These are the proposals we need to front. We have politicians who keep selfishly think for themselves because they have the advantage of sitting on the table. And maybe the message is out there for citizens to know that they're on their own.